this computer. Welcome to Chinwag Romance Chats, a weekly YouTube series where I'll be discussing everything romance and romance adjacent with various guests. Expect laughter, flailing about our favourite genre, and general fun. These are partly to feed my ADHD need for constant stimulation, so please don't expect any fancy editing. This is us at our rawest and most chaotic. And this week we have the amazing Jasmine Silvera with us. I've been a huge fan of Jasmine's books. I mean, literally, we were talking about this probably almost nearly 10 years or something we've been talking in the first. And her tagline, stories about things that go bump in the night, including headboards, is absolutely brilliant and one of my favorites. From her urban fantasy Grace Bloods trilogy set in Prague to paranormal romance trilogy Tooth and Spell, all about witches and werewolves falling in love. She is an absolutely brilliant writer, and I'm delighted to have her and her world building chops on the show. Welcome, Jasmine.
Thank you for having me. I can't believe it's been almost 10 years, but
I know,
we
right?
got this. Yeah, it's been a while. I was just thinking that, Charming Dawn comes out on the 20th, and that's like the end of the cycle, really. I don't have
Yes.
much. I've written my way into Grace Bloods again, and so the loop closes. And that's been, 10 years of my life for sure.
It's yeah, because I back in the days before I was more pop back in the days when I didn't really have much of a following, I had a podcast called Into the Stacks with a friend of mine, and that's how we started talking because we were talking about
Yeah.
like books and stuff, and yeah, and the Grace Bloods. Oh, I love the new covers. The new covers, like you've got these special edition covers, which are very cool. But my heart will always belong to the original covers with like
Yeah.
the gorgeous like silhouettes and the sort of the this sort of almost beige and black goldish color scheme that I just fucking adored.
I
But
do love those. I have a framed one of those on the wall. I mean, you can't see it, but it's behind me. And I still, my heart is in those, but it was time for a recover. And
yeah.
an amazing designer who has known those books for a long time. And apparently, little did I know, she was really ready to recover them. So when I came around and I was like, so I've been thinking about doing the Grace Bloods, and she was like, "Yes, I have some ideas," and had this amazing palette and comparisons, and they're the covers of my heart are the original ones, but the new ones stop traffic. I mean, I feel like all
Yeah.
the events I've been to, people pull over to come hang out and talk a little bit. So
They are gorgeous. They are
they're really
really
fun.
lovely, really striking, and they definitely fit with those kind of the
Mhm.
object covers that are really popular in the kind of
Yeah,
romantasy kind of genre at the moment.
yeah.
Um,
Well, when I started, there
as
was no romantasy. And so like we
no,
were looking for covers and trying to figure out like what's the cover for this gonna look like? Because it's not quite urban fantasy, it's not quite, you know, fantasy romance of the time. So
romantic urban
I was
fantasy.
excited when the object covers came out.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, you remember me trying to brand it back in the day,
Oh
like it's
yes.
kind of urban fantasy, but it's kind of paranormal. Yeah.
It felt to me a little bit like the Hidden Legacy
Hmm.
trilogy or like series now by Ilona Andrews, which was very much it felt like urban fantasy because the arc wasn't in one
Hmm.
book, it was over more than one book, and that felt like a very urban fantasy type thing, but it had a lot of the paranormal romance tropes, and
Hmm.
that's kind of where you kind of fit with the way you were writing those Grace Blood books, which I love still.
Yeah.
Like,
I still get a lot of comparisons to Lona and also Elizabeth Hunter, who I love
oh
personally, is one of my
nice.
favorite writers. I get a little Grace Draven, but I think I'm less like second world fantasy than she is. So
Yeah.
it's not quite the same. But yeah, it was those early days are really interesting. So it's been neat to have romantasy kind of come up and become a thing because it's very easy to say, oh, this is kind of where it fits. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and your world building is amazing. Like I remember that was one of the things that really drew me to that original trilogy at the beginning, like it's set in Prague as well, and this kind of rich world building and lore in a way
Mhm.
that felt different and felt fresh and new, which was really exciting. And then of course you've kind of expanded it into the Tooth and Spell series as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was interesting. I lived in Prague for 2 years. So part of it was being there, and I was there on a family visa, so I wasn't able to work. So it was like I have all this time, and I've been saying I'm going to write a novel, and I'm in this amazing city with incredible history. Let's see what happens. And I had met another American friend there, and we were going to do NaNoWriMo together that year, and we were having those pre-meetings of like, what are we going to talk? What are we going to write about? And I said, I have a really serious idea, and I have a really fun idea. Like, what should I work on? And Beth Green, bless her soul. I mean, she's the one who was like, right, the fun one. And that became Death's Dancer. And that, those three books kind of grew. And then at some point, the readers were like, what about the brothers? Azella's brothers appear in Death's Dancer, and actually the first two books. So people was, oh, we wonder about the werewolves and the witches. And I was like, well, I mean, it's a prequel at this point. So Tooth and Spell, I mean, the story of Tooth and Spell was that it was going to be three prequel novellas that were just the stories of the her werewolf brothers and their witches, and just kind of fun add-ons, and they became three full-length novels. And the third one, Charming Dawn, is coming out on the 20th of November, and that actually goes right into the first book of the Grace Bloods, basically. So,
Which is
which
gorgeous because it means that those of you who've come via Tooth and Spell can go straight into Grace Bloods. And then, of course, those who've read Grace Bloods get to get all the extra stuff on, which is just delicious. And it's one of those things that writing, like world building, I find always really fascinating. Like I've been playing around with a lot of Irish mythology recently. I've got a Fae-owned sex club because, of course, I have a Fae-owned. What
oh
else are the Fae gonna
my gosh.
do in like
I
modern Ireland?
mean, I feel like
Of
they're the
course, they're gonna
original
own a
sex
sex
club
club.
set. Like, yes. Why, yes.
So yeah, so I've been playing a lot with like myths and retelling. So I've got a sapphic retelling of Tamlin and a sapphic retelling of Goblin Market as well,
Mm.
which is really fun and slightly wild. But I think one of the things that I found really interesting about your characters were the heroes were alpha in a way that I didn't find uncomfortable.
Mm.
Um, I it turns out I'm very fucking gay. Who knew? And might have been the reason why a lot of the time I didn't get on with alpha heroes. But I never really had that problem in your books. I really enjoyed the kind of the dynamics, the way that power is explored between like the hero and the heroines throughout. I think they're always done really well. What are you excited about for the new book? I can't wait to read it.
Oh man, everything. I mean, first of all, thank you. That's such a lovely compliment. I think I grew up reading a lot of urban fantasy and then moving into romance, and like the power dynamics are always kind of iffy. And so I did sort of very intentionally try to figure out how to approach those in a way that I could live with afterwards. And so satisfied that that was the takeaway
Absolutely.
from those books, because it's been great. And I think that's really played out even more in Charming Dawn. So that's the third book in the Tooth and Spell. And the Tooth and Spell series even more so than Grace Bloods, because Grace Bloods you still have the like 1,000-year-old hero and who's been around for a while, and our younger protagonist, human. And so, like, so that was that was kind of like, okay, I'm going to take that on. But I think Tooth and Spell has been really interesting because the witches and the wolves are very much on equal footing,
Mm,
even if they, equal but slightly different, right? So,
yeah.
the last book, Charming Dawn, I'm really excited about. It's baby brother Chris. He's been this like shadowing everybody through like 4 books almost. So he's been popping up here and there. And it was really fun to get to, and challenging to get to write his story, and then match him and figure out which would be his counterpart. So they're really fun. They're very much young. They're club kids. They're, kind of nightmares, the two of them separately and together, get into all sorts of mischief. But I got to pull in some really fun things about. So most of the series has been centered in Prague. We had a quick trip to Seattle. But this actually takes us to another necromancer's territory.
Mm.
So in this world, we've got the world's been divided up into territories by necromancers. And we've gone to 2 different ones, and I was like, oh, we need another. We needed to go into how somebody else rules. They all rule a little differently. So that was exciting. It was fun to like take them out of Prague, and get them into another zone altogether. So I'm looking forward to how people take that
Yeah.
one.
Oh, yeah, I'm even more excited now. What are you going to do next? Because, like you said, this is kind of the end of a cycle. You're going to keep writing,
Yeah,
right?
of course. I'm actually, it's funny. I was like, I'm taking a break from writing. I'm just gonna read for a while. And then, like, 3 days later, I was like, but I have this idea. I just wonder, what if? So I'm already writing. I haven't settled on a project yet. I have a couple of hot ideas and we'll see where they go. I also wrote my first, I guess, novelette, so a little shorter than a novella, that's connected to this series. It's called
Oh,
Tasting
no.
Freedom, and it's a bit of a side trip for one of the characters in Conjuring Moonlight.
Oh,
And I had a great time writing that length. That was like 14, 15,000 words, and I could have taken it a little bit longer. And so I might play with some novellas, either set in this world or just it's a good way to like play with new ideas and see what
I really
sticks.
like them, and there's a real market for the sort of 1, 2 hour length novellas on Kindle.
Hmm.
Like, so I have two pen names. I have my Ellie Rose pen name, which is all the filthy daddy dom, mummy dom stuff. Uh,
Yes, indeed.
oh yeah, all of those are between 5 and 15, 18,000 words. They're
Mhm.
all super super short. And then my paranormals at the moment usually end up being between 15 and 30.
Mm.
I have gone longer, but I find my ADHD brain gets really bored.
Mm.
Like I'm like, okay, they've done this now. I want to go into the next project. So
Yeah.
I have to write fast, otherwise my brain gets distracted by something else. Um, but I think that sort of there's a real there's a real skill to writing short and keeping it like that kind of emotional intensity whilst keeping the fun and also having plot in there. The shorter you write, the less plot you need to have. Like for a lot of my Ellie books, it's fucking and vibes and occasionally fucking with vibes, and not much more, not much more than that. But my Alley books, the paranormal ones, there's a lot more world building to it. So like trying to get that balance right has
Oh,
been like
yeah.
pretty fun exploration.
Yeah. And I've so often fallen into like, it's going to be short. It's going to be short. It's going to be vibey. It's going to be sexy. And it's like, nope, it's long, it's slow burn and explosive at the end. Like, what happened
Oh yeah,
between
sometimes
here and here?
they just
But
refuse to
yeah.
do what you want them to do. Like, I wrote one where I was like, okay, well, these guys are enemies to lovers, and within 3 chapters, they're basically like all over each other. I was like, oh, they're not enemies to lovers at all. And oh, she's pretty much besotted already. Fuck. What the hell? This is not
Yeah,
what I
what
had.
next? Yeah, I mean, I love that surprise though. I don't know about you. I find that that's like it's something so exciting about things where you think you know where it's going, and it kind of
Yes.
takes us an interesting side turn that makes the whole thing more exciting.
Goes in a
So
completely different direction. I actually
yeah.
use, speaking, tarot. I actually use tarot as a way of doing, when I get really stuck, I pull tarot
Hmm.
cards for my characters, and there's like part of my PhD at the moment. I'm using tarot as part of chance theory to pull
Mm.
cards for my characters in uh, my PhD at the moment is on. I say at the moment because God knows how many fucking times this damn thing has changed. It on kink, neurodiversity, and queerness in erotic romance,
Oh my
and
God.
that's what my PhD is. So much
Yeah.
fun. But
Yeah.
chance theory and pulling cards is really fun. So I'm going to suggest we pull a card and see where the conversation takes us from there. So tell me
Let's
when to stop, and I will stop. Oh, for those who cannot see, I am
see.
shuffling. It's just I can't shuffle up here, or I'll drop all the cards. Tell me when to stop.
And stop.
Okay, what
I
have
have
we got?
bad impulse control. Like, yes,
Ooh,
now.
no,
Now is
no,
the stop.
absolutely.
You
Oh,
stop
look, the
now.
hermit.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. So those of you who don't know, the
Mm.
Hermit is a major arcana card. So it can sometimes represent someone in your life, but also the major arcana. In the major arcana, you have the Fool, who is card 0, and it's basically the hero's journey in narrative form. And each
Mhm.
stop on the journey is someone who the Fool meets or something that happens to them. And I love the Hermit as a concept because it's partly a take time to think about it, but it's also sometimes it's that self-imposed shit, I need a break. I need to stop and think about where I am and where I'm going. Are you a
A
lone
very
writer?
apt card for my writing process right now, and like where I'm at with 6 books done, and like what's next. Yeah,
Like
that's
a
yeah.
meditative. Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, are you a lone writer? Are you someone who writes on their own, or do you write with other people? What's your writing process?
A little bit of both. I find that I am just neurospicy enough that I need to mix it up a lot.
Makes sense.
Routines start to wear me down. And often if I get stuck, the first thing I do is change my venue, or if I'm writing by myself, I write with others.
Yeah.
I also respond really well to mirroring. So even just a Zoom call with everybody staring into their
Oh
own
my God,
machine
body
is like,
doubling is the
yeah,
only way I've written any fucking book.
it's
I
just the
am not
best.
capable of
Yeah.
writing them on my own.
Yeah. And then once in a while, my favorite place, I actually write at the zoo a lot. So when my little one
Oh,
was small, we had a zoo membership, and when she started going to school, I would just go to the zoo. The otter house is kind of warm and enclosed and has no Wi-Fi. So I would go there and just sit in the dark and write
oh my
for,
God.
and it's
Wow.
still a place that like if I get really stuck, I can just go, and it's nice and carpeted, and there's little, there's little nooks that I can sit in. So I'm definitely surprised a few toddlers who come around the corner and I'm hunched over my keyboard like a little goblin, like grinning into my computer,
Oh, that's
But
amazing.
that's what I mean. Mix it up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had a PhD deadline that I just couldn't meet. Like it just wasn't happening. And Abby, my girlfriend, had the dress rehearsal for her play, and she was like, "Do you want to come with me?" And I was like, "Yes, please." And so they were all set up acting in the hall, and I was just outside the hall. And we took some of the couch cushions, extra cushions, and I made myself into a little PhD gremlin, sat on the floor in the corner. And people would come past and go, "Annie, do you want to go sit on the sofa?" I'm like, "No, no, no. The floor is
Yeah.
where I need to be right now." Literally
Right.
curled.
Yeah, when the words come, it's like, don't move. Everybody just go away for just a minute. Let me finish this. Yeah. I think,
It really
the biggest thing for me is just like figuring out what my process is and then being willing to change it when it changes or when the
Oh,
project requires it. Like you
yeah, the
can't just
change
sitting in the
bit.
same thing.
I am not good
Yeah.
at the change bit, but that whole I like writing on my own, but I like
Mm.
other people being around, if that
Hmm.
makes any kind of sense. So like
Absolutely.
so Zoom calls make sense because you write and then you do a check-in, and that's enough it's enough there's enough of people checking in on me that I don't just fuck off and do nothing and get
100%.
distracted and binge watch an entire show on Netflix. This may or may not have happened in the past. Um,
I'll never tell.
I regret nothing.
Nope.
Um, but that whole there's something like you were saying about mirroring. There's something about knowing
Hmm.
that other people are around that inherently make me work, and I don't understand why.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know either, but it works, and I'm not going to argue with it too much. I'm just going to use it to get things done. I mean, I think it doesn't even matter what the other person is working on ultimately. Like
No.
we've taken breaks, and it turns out the other person was answering work emails, and I'm like, well, cool, keep doing what you're doing because I'm getting the words in. So, yes. I don't need to know that you are, playing Hades for the eighth time over there. Just keep staring at your computer because it's making the words come.
Oh, but there is something about it can be quite isolating. I think
Hmm.
if we think about going back to the being a writer can be quite isolating. And one of the things that I know you do fairly regularly is you go to signings, don't you, in the States?
I do. I really enjoy it. I love meeting readers, and it is the kind of the balm for the isolation. And it never fails to amaze me when I mean, I still like people come, oh, I read your book, and I'm like, you did? You read my book? These characters live outside of my head now, and that is wild. Yeah, so I go to as many as I can. It's not as many as I'd like to, but I have a few
What are the
regulars.
ones you've got coming up? Because I just came back
Mm.
last month before from Florida. I did Smut Lovers in Florida,
How
and
was
I went.
that?
Oh, it was amazing. It was so
Yes.
good. It's 2 days of like writing conference as well. So I did a
Hmm.
talk on self-safety, consent and negotiations with
Hmm.
Eden Bradley for the thing, and then I did a talk on consent, writing ethical sex and consent, which
Hmm.
was really fun. And then the signing was amazing. I'd only ever done UK signings, so it was my first international signing, and it went great. So I'm
Awesome.
going back next year, and I've got Vegas in March, which is very exciting. For Dirty
That's
Daddies,
cool.
do Vegas, of course.
Nice.
Ridiculous. And then I'm doing sort of a couple of small UK ones as well. But what have you got lined up?
I'm hoping to be back at Steamy Lit next year, and it will be Halloween weekend next year, which is amazing because I
Oh,
love Halloween and I love dressing up, and that's enough lead time that I can actually get a great costume together. I'll be doing a few things locally. I spend a lot of time I'm on the West Coast, so I do tend to do mostly events on the West Coast, and I have a small
right.
person that makes it hard to kind of disappear for weeks at a time.
Yeah, of course.
Um, but so yeah, the other one, there's a local one that just started up last year and had a great year. It's the Emerald City Romance Writers Readers event. So that's in Seattle in the summer. And then I don't have much coming up this spring. I guess I'm sort of taking that hermit time this through the
Right.
end of the year and into the spring, and really sort of trying to just get back with myself and figure out where creativity is going to take me next. But yeah, so I think those will be next up. Probably the soonest will be June. So
Oh
I'll be
wow.
making
Yeah.
my
I've
might
got
be start
one
making rounds again.
next this weekend coming, which is for people watching last weekend.
Mhm.
This comes out, it's recorded 2 weeks in advance. So that's in Shrewsbury. And then yeah, no, Vegas, Belfast, which is books and ball gowns. So it's a book signing
Oh,
during the day and a fantasy ball at night. And I am so psyched. I
oh
cannot
man.
wait. It'll be amazing.
Oh,
And then Brighton Comic Con as well. So
yeah.
my local town, they have like a Comic Con because it's the queer capital of the UK, and it turns out that when you have queers and specifically queer nerds in a space, they buy all the shit, like all of the
Oh,
shit. So I will be taking
amazing.
lots of gay books with me and hoping to make some sales. And it's fun. I think what you said about like readers, like it always feels slightly mad to me that readers are like, oh yeah, I love your books. I'm like, wait, my books?
Yeah.
Mine?
I always kind of look around
What?
like you're talking
What?
to me. Yeah, right. Right. Although I got
Yeah.
to have that moment. I met Neilani Singh at Steamy Lit this last year, and I just barely kept it together. I mean, that's the closest I've come to having a complete fangirl meltdown in about, 20 years. Just, and, it's like, so I know that feeling and I love it. I admire readers for the bravery to come up and say it, because I think honestly, I kind of just stood there and gaped at her wildly for
Wild.
the first 20 seconds. Yeah. So,
I mean, Eden Bradley is now technically one of my best friends, which is mad to me because she wrote the first book with sapphic representation that I ever read
mm,
when I was like 20. I found her book. I found a book of hers called The Lovers, and it's poly and really good, but it had sapphic stuff in it, and I was like, holy shit, people write this. This
yeah.
is my kind of stuff. And in September, I was rooming with her and we went out for dinner and I did a panel with her. And there is my brain going, how is this real? Like,
Hmm.
it's wild when, yeah, you become friends with people that you admire. And, but even just meeting people that you admire, like, I have to
Hmm.
try not to fangirl really hard. And I usually fail. It's, people can usually tell because I go up and buy all of their books. Like Ariel Marie came to the UK for Rare, not was it last year, year before, last year, and I had ordered every single Sapphic book that she had available, which was I think about 14 at the time. And I turned up and went, "Hi, I'm Ali. I might have ordered all your books," and she was like, "Hi, here you go." Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh my god, you're so cool.
So lovely. Love it. Yeah, it's a good reminder. Like, we're all readers too, and
Oh
I
god,
think
yeah.
we've all have at least one author that we're secretly ready to just like melt into a puddle on the floor when they walk in the room. So
I mean, Penelope Douglas is going to be at the Belfast signing that I'm going to, and that, like, when I heard that they are going to be there, I almost lost my mind. I was like, that is the coolest thing. Like, I'm totally gonna sneak my copy of Tris Venom 6. Like, hi, would you mind please and thank you signing
Yes,
this, please? Thank
yes,
you.
yes. Do it, do it. Absolutely.
Oh
Yeah.
dear. Yeah, so exciting times ahead. And I'm excited for the release.
Yeah.
It's I think I think when we think about the world as it is and the craziness and the shittiness as well, I think it's really important having books that feel like safe spaces
Mm,
and feel I like books that make me feel safe and books that make me feel the love. And your writing always does that, which makes me really happy.
thank you. That
It's
again,
okay.
you're saying such nice things about me. I'm not gonna melt into the puddle on the floor right now.
Oh, it's okay. I can be a
Um,
bitch if you prefer. I can be an absolute
yeah,
if you like.
I do
I'm
like well, so if you want to be a little nasty to me, I'm okay with that. No, you know what? I think that is one of the things that I love the most about what I do is that they're escapes for me, and I hope that they're escapes for other people and moments to just find some happiness and some solitude and some quiet and some adventure that ends well and ends with people happy and together. And we can't all go out and solve all the big problems in the world, but I think if we can make ourselves a little happier and spread that into our immediate world, we have a better chance of making bigger changes too. So I'm delighted like that. I feel like someone calling my book an escape read or beach read or something that they just like lost hours in is one of the biggest compliments I can get because our
I
time is so
oh,
precious.
I'd be
Yeah.
so happy if people said that about my books. I would literally be just delighted. And I think I've just released an anthology. I organized an anthology, which fun, stressful, never again. Too many plates, and I was going through burnout whilst also organizing it all. And was like this is wild, but it's a sapphic kinky Christmas anthology called Making Her List, and
Mm,
today recording day is also election day for you guys in the States, and so the branding we've all been doing like promotion over the last couple of days, and today's promotion is um, vote, do the right
mm.
thing, buy a queer book, and fuck off the the right wingers.
Exactly. I love
Just
that. I
because
mean,
people are like, oh yeah, if you need an escape, read my romance. We're like, no, no, this isn't an escape. This is fucking the system. Fuck
this
the
is it.
system. Read queer
This is
romance.
rebellion. This is
Yeah.
rebellion. I mean, my favorite, I'm a huge geek, so I love Star Wars, and I love that line in Rogue One that a rebellion is built on hope, and I feel like
Oh my
that's
god. I don't know if
what
I
do you
can.
got. What do you got hiding there for me?
All right,
Yeah,
at the
see,
top, rebellion is the.
exactly. And I feel like romance is part of that. Romance is part
Yes.
of building hope and inspiring people and creating spaces that are safe and loving and where people feel like there's hope possible.
And it's
So yeah,
really rebellious.
this
Like I
is
think it's
yeah.
really important, especially people who don't always get to see themselves reflected,
Hmm.
in general media. Like there is something activist and rebellious about going, I'm going to decenter the narrative that is always
Yep.
in thing. Yeah. Speaking of escape reads, do you have any book recommendations for me?
Oh yes. Oh, and that's a perfect segue. So it is not fantasy romance, but as a young person who grew up watching Romancing the Stone,
Oh,
and things like them falling in love with the Mummy is one of my favorite movies, and who like smart, like independent, sassy women having amazing adventures, and fucking the patriarchy.
always.
Temple of Swoon from Joe Segura is coming out in the spring. It's the second book. The first one was, oh God, the name, Raiders of the Lost Heart.
Yes,
Joe is
yes, I
an
have that one.
enormous. I love the titles. I think they're like
So
chef's
cute.
kiss. But I just love them. They're smart heroines and action. It's a lot of like adventure and science, and sexy times. Very, very good.
Excellent.
So definitely that one highly recommended. Coming soon. Coming soon to a not to a bookstore near you.
That sounds amazing. at Smart Lovers, I met Zelda Knight, who has, I mean, look at that cover.
Yes.
Uh,
Oh my goodness.
so
Ah,
I think she writes a mix of MF and FF, and
mhm.
like they've got like really, there's a map and like
Mm,
prettiness.
so beautiful.
But they've got me back into vampires because like after
Oh.
Twilight, like back in like the 2010s, like 2004 to 2010, there was such a glut of vampires that it really put me off them for a long time, and I really
Mhm.
struggled to get back into them. And I picked this one up when I was in Florida, and oh my god, yes, the vampires,
Mm,
yes. But
okay.
oh, I didn't expect to
Oh,
be
that's
back
good. I'm
in.
gonna write that one down. I have not quite gone back into vampires yet, but it might be time. So
Yeah, I
maybe.
have occasionally sort of dip my toes in, check it out, and then
Mhm.
s- sort of stutter backwards. But this really caught me actually. Commanded by the Night, and it's gorgeous. It's one in a series, and like the main character is a shifter zoologist.
Ooh.
It's just yes. And then my ex, Jasmine, a powerful vampire heiress to the largest blood bank in town. And I'm like,
Oh,
oh my
and my
god, yes.
namesake. Yes, I'm in. Okay, I'm in.
Second
I'm gonna
chance
go run quick
romance,
chat right
like,
after we get out of
oh,
here. Yeah, that sounds amazing.
just like
I love to hear about
everything I
Jasmine's
need.
living their best immortal lives.
Exactly, yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. Like, I've had so much
Mm.
fun, and yeah, make sure
Yes, my
you
pleasure. Thank
go.
you for having me. I'm so excited that like it's been almost 10 years that I've known you, and I'm
I
really,
know,
really
and we've
pleased.
never actually talked on Zoom, so this is like
I
the
know.
perfect
It's the
time.
next steps, and maybe another 10 years we'll actually be at a conference together and we'll
Oh
do a
no,
little signing.
it's gonna be sooner than that. I'm gonna have to
I
get
hope
this
so.
over,
Let's
over
work
to
on
the West
that.
Coast.
Yeah, yeah. Come out west.
Yeah.
All
It's
right.
been so much fun. Thank you so much. Make sure you pick up Jasmine's book, which comes out on the 20th, the third book in the Tooth and Spell series.
Hey, Charming
Um,
Dawn. We'll see you on the 20th.
Coming Dawn. And I have books out too. Go buy my books, please, people. Thank you. Uh,
Definitely.
but yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.